Arf Tov. Good evening, everyone. I'm Gretchen Marks-Brandt, Interim Director of the Synagogue Council of Massachusetts. On behalf of our Board of Directors, it's my honor to welcome you this evening to Serving Our Roomers and Our Zoomers, Multi-Access Judaism. I'm excited to share that about half of you are from Massachusetts, and half of you are from other places, including as far away as California, my home state. Many of you are rabbis and synagogue presidents, and many of you are not. We all know that multi-access events are important to our communities and will remain with us. We share recognition that we are challenged to do them better, to make them more inclusive, more engaging, and more effective. Our presenter, Rabbi David Paskin, is here to provide some guidance and answer your questions. Rabbi David, as he is known, is an accomplished spiritual leader, singer, songwriter, entertainer, Jewish futurist, social activist, award-winning Jewish educator, and your Torah tech guy. David is an early adopter and technologist. He has produced hundreds of videos on Facebook and YouTube with well over 500,000 views. David shares his love for technology and Torah with communities around the country through workshops and trainings, and reaches Jewish communities around the world on TorahTechGuy.tv broadcasts like Torah Tech Tips, Unmute, How To, and launching in November his latest show, The Future is Starting Now. David is also thrilled to be a featured panelist and contributor on a number of other web shows, including Office Hours, Synagogue Tech Forum, Zoom Test Kitchen, and Hybrid Ministries Tech Forum. I am delighted and a bit relieved to turn the program over to Rabbi David Paskin, your Torah tech guy.
Hello, everybody. And not only all of that, but I'm a Massachusettsian. I don't know how to say that.
Native.
I was, well, not native, that's the problem. So I was in Massachusetts for 25 years. I was the rabbi in Canton, Massachusetts at what was then Temple Beth Abraham. And I actually, wait, do I have it here? I won this from Synagogue Council of Massachusetts, along with Rabbi Menachem Creditor. We were both given the Community Service Award back in, oh dear Lord, 2007. So it's very, very special to be back with all of you. We're going to dive right in. We're not going to waste any time. So our topic for today, by the way, everyone can hear me and see me okay? I'll just do that for, great. Okay. So our topic for today is serving our roomers and our Zoomers, multi-access Judaism. Now, before we even started this discussion, well, not before we started the discussion, but before tonight started, you all asked some amazing questions, and you can see them all right here. How do we include Zoomers when there's a big event that isn't forward-facing? What resource do you use with your congregation to streamline the complexities of a hybrid situation, of a hybrid sort of experience? How do you make the experience more engaging? What kind of equipment do we need? What are affordable ways? That was a big one. How do we make sure that our rabbi and our cantor aren't overwhelmed by all of this? All of these were amazing, amazing questions, and I hope that we will get to many of them over the course of our next few moments together. If there's something that I don't get to, please, 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 please put it in the chat. I promise I'll keep an eye on that, and I will try and answer as many of those as I can. And if we don't have time today, know that I'm always available to you. I'm doing this as a labor of love. You can always reach out to me. So let's start by defining a few terms. I think this is really important because I'm afraid that we make some mistakes here. The first term is virtual versus digital. Virtual means something that is almost or nearly as described, but not strictly what you say it is. Well, I would argue that there is absolutely nothing virtual about what we're doing in our synagogues and our communities. It is as real as it gets. So I want to encourage you to not talk about virtual services or virtual classes, but instead to talk about digital classes. Digital meaning it's involved with or it relates to the use of technology, digital technology or computer technology. That's really what we're doing. The experience that we're offering can be and should be just as powerful, just as meaningful, just as relevant. There's nothing fake about it. The second terms I want to talk about is in-person versus on-site. So when we talk about in person, we mean with the personal presence or action of the individual specified. And I would argue that people, all of you, are very much in person on this Zoom call right now. The other option is to talk about on-site, something that takes place or is situated at a specific location. So I want to encourage you to not talk about virtual events, and also to not distinguish between in-person and online, but instead to distinguish between on-site and online. When we say to people that our in-person participants, as opposed to our online participants, that sends a subtle message that I don't really think that you're here. All right. The third and final set of words that I'd like for us to start by oh my God, Sarah, who is that? Who's that beautiful person? No, bring him back. Who is that? I love it. He's gone. Okay. Sorry. I get distracted by beautiful children. I apologize. The third terms that I want to talk about with you is the difference between broadcast and multicast. A broadcast is transmitting a program or some information digitally. YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, your website. A multicast is when we transmit and engage with audio and video from multiple sources. So Zoom, for example, or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, those are all multicasts. And those are very, very different experiences, I would argue, than a broadcast is. We're going to talk more about that later. But first of all, what is hybrid? So hybrid is a thing made up of two different elements, a mixture. So if you think about my Toyota Prius, which I love, right? You've got gas and then you've got electricity. We can think of the gas as our roomers and we can think about the electricity as our zoomers. Both of them are fundamental to make up this hybrid experience of driving my car to work from Boca to Miami every single day. But of course, in the Jewish community, we're not really even talking about hybrid anymore. Now we're talking about multi-access, which I think is such a beautiful reframing of what we're trying to do. This isn't hybrid. Hybrid sounds like it's something we had to do in response to a pandemic. Multi-access is a continuation of what we've always been trying to do, which is make our Torah more relevant, more meaningful, more engaging, and more accessible to more people. So I love the idea of thinking about multi-access experiences rather than hybrid experiences. But let's be honest, it's not the same to be online than it is to be on site, or at least it often doesn't feel that way. Oftentimes, those of us who are in online experiences, especially when it's a multi-access, so there are folks in the room also, we can feel like we're digital but not equal. And so I want to suggest to you that the best multi-access experiences ensure that no one group, either the Zoomers or the Roomers, has a second-class experience. And that in fact, both groups of people have four experiences. They feel welcomed, they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel engaged. That's one of the reasons why as people were coming in, I was calling out names. Hey, Gail, hi, Sarah, right? We love hearing our names. We love hearing our names. We love knowing that we're seen, that I noticed that you're here, or maybe I couldn't see your video and I really wanted to see you. I wanted to say hello. There's something so powerful about being seen, about being heard. And those are things that we can do on both platforms, on site and online. In fact, I would argue it's a heck of a lot easier online because I'm terrible with names. And so thank God I remember that Rabbi Andrea's name is Rabbi Andrea because I can see it right under her face. Thank goodness for Zoom. All right. At the end of the day, we really have to focus on one fundamental question. And it is the question of all questions. And that question is, what are your goals? If this isn't where we start any discussion about technology or what camera to have or what microphone to use, then we're missing the point. We have to begin with what are your goals? So you may have a goal of allowing all of your participants who are not on site to see your offerings. Or maybe you have a goal of reaching a wider audience. You want to cast a net larger than just Massachusetts or California or wherever you are. Or perhaps one of your goals is to be able to see and hear all who are joining online and allow them to participate in your offerings, a multicast experience. Or maybe one of your goals is to produce a high quality stream. If you watch Central Synagogue, they have a very high quality stream. Maybe that's their goal. And finally, maybe your goal is to engage with your online participants really deeply in a meaningful and deep way. How you answer this fundamental question, and I'm sure there are a million other answers, will really determine a number of the factors, including whether you should be broadcasting or multicasting. So let's just start there. When should I broadcast and when should I multicast? When should I just stream out to Facebook or YouTube? And when should I be on Zoom or something like that? We'll get into the weeds after this. So when should you broadcast? Well, if all you care about is making, I said that in a demeaning way. I didn't mean that. If your goal is that your participants should be able to see your stream if they're not able to come in on site, or if you want to reach a wider audience, or if you want to do something flashy, that's a great time to broadcast. If instead your goals are to be able to see and hear those who are joining online, allowing them to participate, if you want to engage with your online participants in a meaningful way, those are reasons to multicast. These are hard to do on Facebook and YouTube. Not impossible, but they're much more difficult to do on Facebook and YouTube. Now, over the course of the past 18, 20 months, I've developed a number of big ideas around sharing technology and Torah. We're not going to do all of these, but we are going to pick up on a few of them. So let's dive right in. All right. The first big idea is that engagement creates community in digital space. So let's practice. Do me a favor right now in the chat, write the name of your community. I want to see who's here. Any of my old friends from Massachusetts, what communities are you from? Friends from wherever you are, write it in the chat. Milton, Massachusetts. I used to be the rabbi in Milton, Massachusetts for one glorious year. Road of Shalom in Bridgeport, Central Reform, Temple of Boston, Pittsburgh in the house, ER Hamelech, Kingston, Ontario. Hello. Stoughton, Mass. I know Stoughton, Congregation Agudas Achim in Taunton. Winchester, hey, Temple Shir Tikva, Beth Israel in Colorado, Ahavat Achim in Gloucester, Hamakom in Santa Fe, Taunton, Massachusetts, Temple Israel of Natick, I know it very well, Gloucester, Massachusetts, the center of Judaism, I love it. Worcester, Mass, Shir Ami in Newton, Temple Beth Elohim in Wellesley, Penn Valley, PA, oh my gosh, Temple Beth Poughkeepsie, is it Temple Beth Poughkeepsie, or is it just Temple Beth and then it's in Poughkeepsie? That would be a cool name, Temple Beth Poughkeepsie. Am Hayam, oh, that's a great name in Orleans, New Orleans. Temple Sinai of Brookline, I love it. Whoops, Waltham, Math, Beth Israel. I lived in Waltham for 7-8 years. Fantastic, amazing. Beth Am Yisrael, Malden, Mass, Falmouth, Math, amazing. It's so good to see all of you here. So I'm curious. Let's try another engagement tactic. I'm going to launch a poll. And I'm curious what your thoughts are about this poll. The question is, if you were given the option to attend your next board meeting on site or online, which would you choose? Would you choose on site, online, or would you just skip it altogether? That is an absolute possibility. Let's see, we're getting some votes in here. 45, oh, wow, we're leaning to online. One person says skip it altogether. I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, it's going. I'll give you another couple seconds and we'll close this out. 100% answer. Let's see. Here are the results. 47%. Wow, this is really interesting. 47% said on site, 50% said online, and 1%, or one person rather, 3% said skip it altogether. Using the chat and using polls invites your participants to not just be passive recipients of whatever you're sharing, but to feel that they're a part of what's going on. Now, there are lots of other things that you can do also. For example, you could share a Slido, or you could use Mentimeter, you could use Padlet. There are a million different tools out there. Here's my warning about using most of these tools. even Zoom apps. I don't know if you know, but this summer Zoom launched Zoom apps. They've already had a gazillion different apps that sort of integrate, but now there's a set of Zoom apps, and Mentimeter, which is lots of people use it for polling, is one of those Zoom apps. What's really nice about it is that they integrate right into your Zoom meeting. So people don't have to use their phone or their computer to go to a different website. The problem is that if everyone doesn't have the Mentimeter Zoom app installed, it won't work for them. So my warning about using third-party apps for engagement is they're great as long as your participants know how to use them and can manage them. If you're dealing with a community that isn't very tech savvy, and as soon as you ask them to open up a separate tab on their desktop, they lose the Zoom. Where'd Zoom go? Where is everybody? You may not want to invite them to a Slido or a Mentimeter or a Padlet. You may want to keep them within your Zoom meeting or your Google Meet or wherever it is. So bear in mind, one of the things I learned early on is that while I love to have lots of toys and know all of my tech, it's much more important what my participants' tech capacity is, much more so than my own tech capacity. Everyone's chatting, they don't focus on what is being discussed. Yes, in a board meeting, Charlie is mentioning about the chatting. Are you talking about in the text box? Yeah, I actually got in trouble because unlike when I'm presenting, I actually am sort of an introvert and I don't like speaking all that much. And I found myself during board meetings chatting away, and I ended up really distracting everybody else in the board meeting. So yes, chat can be distracting. Agreed. All right, let's keep going here. We talked about chat. We talked about using polls and things like this. I want to give you 5 ways to foster meaningful human connection in digital space. These are not complex, and there's almost no tech involved. The first one is check-ins. So let me tell you about check-ins. I love check-ins. I was in a class once, and the teacher started the class by saying, "Tell me about where you are right now. Are you hineni? Are you fully present in this moment? Are you aneni? Are you questioning what this is all about? Or are you eneni? Are you thinking about all the emails that you have yet to acknowledge? Are you thinking about your shopping list? Where are you today?" So let me invite you, think about it right now, in this moment, and you can put it in the chat if you want, or you can just think about it. Where are you? Are you fully present here right now? Are you kind of here? Are you really not wanting to be here, but your executive director made you come? Where are you? I got a hineni. I got a hineni. I got a present. I got a present. Oh, lots of hinenis. And the choir sings. More present than usual, taking notes. I love it. I love it. By the way, we're recording this. We'll make it available to all of you after the fact. Hineni, I love it. I want to tell you the reason why this was so powerful to me is not because everyone was hineni. Instead it's because it's me acknowledging that although I'm very present because I'm the presenter, I just made a pun. Although I'm very present because I'm the presenter, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else is. And simply acknowledging where you are. And if I were to see an eneni, I might say to them, "I'm so sorry. You know what? Jump off. I'll send you the recording later. Go be with your family. Go take care of what you need." Acknowledging where people are with check-ins is a really powerful way to, again, let them know that you care. Next, eye contact. So I don't know if you've noticed, but during most of this meeting, I'm looking right at the camera. Now, I have a ridiculous setup that allows me to do that. I'm using a teleprompter, and I've got my Zoom in the teleprompter here. So don't be like me. But to the extent that you can look at your participants, not at their images on your screen, but at your participants, that eye contact makes a world of difference. There are lots of different ways to kind of make this work. There's something called the center cam. You could use a teleprompter, or you can just train yourself to look from time to time. It doesn't have to be constant. Train yourself to look at your camera. We're not going to get into the weeds on this. Suffice it to say that remember that people are looking at you and want to know, you know that you're being seen. They want to know that they're being seen also. And by making eye contact, you can make them feel that way. Third, use names. That's what I did when I came in. Again, thank God that Zoom has the names below everyone's face because I wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. Use people's names. Hey, Cousin Cindy. It's good to see you. Hi. See what I just did there? Unmute. Invite people to unmute. Your voice should not be the only voice. When I lead services, for example, by the way, I should say when I give personal examples, I should preface it by saying I'm not in a multi-access environment. When I do lead services, it's purely online, which is a lot easier. So let me just say that at the beginning. But when I do lead services online, there are times in the service when I'm very intentional about asking people to unmute and speak. And if you end up with a cacophony of voices, Gegezunte hey, you have a cacophony of voices. But allowing people to share names, like for example, during the Refuah Shlema, or during the prayer for healing, or during Kaddish Yatom, or other times, maybe you want to invite people to share something beautiful, a blessing that they experienced this past week. Allowing people's voices to be a part of the experience is another way to create real meaningful connection. And finally, social spaces. So there are a number of different platforms out there, like Spatial Chat, like Wonder.me, like Reslash. These are all alternatives to Zoom. And I'm not going to show you one now. I'm happy to jump on a Zoom with anyone any other time and show you how these work. But essentially, they're spatial meeting spaces. So what happens is you come in and you end up like a little circle, and there's a canvas, if you will, that you can create, or you can use one that they have, and you actually can move yourself around this canvas. So I have one set up that looks like a Beit Midrash that I just built in Canva, and I uploaded it. I have a table and I have a little coffee clutch, and people can move themselves around, and the closer you get to another person, the more you hear them. And if you get right next to someone, their video pops up. And if you move away from them, their video disappears and you don't hear them anymore. It democratizes the experience and allows people to have a little more control than just being a box on Zoom. They're a lot of fun. Here's the downside. The downside is two downsides. One is, for better or worse, everyone knows how to use Zoom. And using a different platform can, even if it's the easiest thing in the world, can throw people for a loop. The second downside is that these are not all fully baked yet. Right now, these are all pretty much free because they're not fully baked, but that's the nice part. But because they're not fully baked, they don't play nice always on mobile. And one of the things that I discovered when I decided, hey, after services, we're going to have Kiddush in, I forget which one it was, Wonder.me, that 3/4 of my participants were participating in my services on an iPad. And these apps did not play, or these websites didn't play nice on mobile, and an iPad is mobile. So bear that in mind when you're thinking about these, but they do exist. You don't need to be stuck in a box. Let me really quickly peek at the chat here. How do you do iCamera if you have people both on-site and digital? Yeah. That's a really good question. Just include the camera as one of the people with whom you make eye contact, Rabbi Adrian says, Rabbi Adrian Rubin, thank you. Breakout rooms for check-ins. Yeah, that's a nice one. Making eye contact, I'll tell you that this past high holidays, I did not lead services. I actually produced them for the synagogue that I work at now. And one of the things that I noticed is that, and I spoke to the rabbi after the first day of Rosh Hashanah, and I said, please don't forget all the people who are watching online, because he was very naturally drawn to the faces in the room. He did not take the time to look at the camera and directly address the folks who are watching and participating online. It's hard to do that. It is. It's a very natural response to gravitate toward the human beings that are emitting warmth that are in the room, that are on site. I think putting the camera in one of the seats, maybe, like a congregant is a really nice idea. As you scan the room, you're making eye contact. Remember, you don't have to be you don't want to be staring into the camera. You want, just like you would with all the people in the room, making eye contact. So if you can place that camera strategically, that's fantastic. If it's one of those PTZ cameras, which we'll talk about a little later, that you have hanging up in the back of the sanctuary, being aware of it. I have a sticky that before I had my teleprompter that had a big arrow with a smiley face saying, look here, to remind me to look at the camera. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Ready? There are amazing tools that can enrich davening and learning in digital space. So let's take a look at some of them. The first one is actually, you know what? Yeah, let me get out of this and I'm gonna show you the first one because this is pretty cool. So you ready for this? Check. Oh, sorry, I have my thing on. All right, so this is, I'm in Keynote now. This is the presentation that I'm actually showing you. You're looking ahead at some of the other stuff that's gonna pop in. This is Keynote. Ignore how I'm doing this for now. This is a green background, I'm using green screen. But I wanna show you something brand new for you Mac users that can really make your teaching and davening really kind of amazing. A new function is called live video. If I click on live video, it brings into Keynote a live video from my webcam, whatever webcam I have. This is on a different device, so that's why it's over there, and the audio is probably out of sync, but you can get the idea. I can resize this. I can give it a border. Let's give it a little border there. And I could probably also, yeah, I can, how do I make this? I want to make it a different, here we go. Let's make it a different shape. I'm going to do a custom shape, and maybe I want to have it just like this. Now, why might I do this? Why might I use something like this? Because when you screen share, let's say you're sharing visual tefillah and you're screen sharing, you disappear. You go up into the little corner there, right? You are the most important part of whatever you're sharing, whatever Torah you're teaching, whether it's in a board meeting, whether it's services, you are the most important part of that. And for you to disappear is a shanda. So what Keynote allows you to do now is I could screen share this if I wanted to, and I would be right in the center. Nice and big for everyone to see all my pimples and all my gray hairs. That's Keynote with live video. Let me go back now and I'll show you, actually I won't show you, but I'll just tell you that if you're not a Mac user, you actually can do something like this in PowerPoint right into Zoom. It's called Use PowerPoint as Background, I think. And if you go into your video effects and green screen, you can actually upload a PowerPoint. And then what Zoom will do is it will superimpose you on top of the PowerPoint. And you can, again, make yourself larger or smaller. So let's say you have a PowerPoint where you have text on one side and you want to be on the other. You can do that natively right in Zoom using PowerPoint. It also works with Keynote. It'll also work with Google Slides. The reason I don't like using it is because Zoom is keying out. That's using green screen technology. And this is why I really can't stand virtual backgrounds. Sorry, Roz. I can't stand virtual backgrounds either, because unless you do a virtual background well, unless you know how to key yourself out well, it really is very distracting. It doesn't look good. So that's what Zoom is doing on when you use PowerPoint as background. But nonetheless, it would be better than having you disappear up into the corner. Let me share a couple of other really nice tools. Let me get through here. We talked about Keynote, and then there's also production software and virtual cameras like Cinemaker. This is a really interesting one. Cinemaker is really very cheap. I don't remember the pricing exactly. It's very affordable. And it's Mac and iOS based. So here's how Cinemaker works. You use a Macintosh or an iPad, and you open up the Director app. And in the Director app, you have multiple places for cameras. Now, you're saying to me, but David, I don't have cameras. Do you have an iPhone? Because you download the free Cinemaker iPhone app and it will automatically connect the two and you'll have a camera. Maybe grab 2 other congregants who have 2 iPhones. You now have a 3-camera shoot, which you can control all from within Cinemaker on your iPad just by touching a button. It's really nice software. Now, where Cinemaker falls flat for me is in overlays. So if you did want to share lower thirds, if you were doing visual to line, you want to put the liturgy there. It's not great for overlays, but if you just are looking for something for camera switching, Cinemaker is a really nice option. Some of you have probably heard of OBS. OBS, the Open Broadcast System or software. I forget what the last S stands for. OBS is free software. It's production or broadcast software, and it will allow you to bring in multiple cameras and overlays like I'm doing here and all this fancy stuff. It's completely free. That's the plus. It's very hard. That's the negative. I find OBS to be very complicated. That isn't to say you can't learn it. There are a million people out there who think they know how to use OBS and will try and teach you on YouTube. I watched about 500,000 of those videos and I couldn't figure it out, but it is an option. The third option that I would mention, which is what I'm using right now, is called Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live is a Mac only application. If you're on PC, the PC sort of version of this is called Vmix. And basically these are just broadcast software that allow you to set up scenes. So for example, I have this scene here. If I wanted to, let me turn this off. If I wanted to share, another screen alongside, or if I wanted to go full, these are all scenes that I have set up in Ecamm. It makes it very easy to use. If you're on a Mac, it's a great solution. I want to say it's about $380 a year for Ecamm Live. All of these, you come into Zoom using a virtual camera. So Zoom, they will install a virtual camera on your device, whether it's Vmix or OBS or Cinema or any of them. And then in Zoom, you just, instead of your webcam or instead of your Ptz camera, you choose the virtual camera from this broadcast system. I'm happy, if any of you want to learn more about these, we can find a time. I'm happy to walk you through any of them except OBS because I haven't figured that one out yet. Okay, let's talk hardware real quick. How's my time? Oh, dear Lord, 7:35. Okay, let's talk hardware real quick. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but I do want to define a few things so that you have some basics to begin with. Let's start with a computer. How many of you, just raise your hands, how many of you use your cantor or your rabbi's laptop from their office, schlep it into the sanctuary, and use that to stream your services? I've spoken to too many that do. Please don't do that. Please get a dedicated computer to stream. You don't have to break the bank. By the way, you can do a complete setup for a really solid stream for under $5,000. The synagogue that I work at here spent $30,000. You don't need to do that. You do not need to do that. So I would recommend a Mac Mini, but don't buy one yet, because on Monday, Apple is having an event and they're announcing new Macintosh computers, and I bet they're going to have a new Mac Mini. The Mac Mini is about a $700 device if you get it on education. It's the M1 Mac Mini, so the newer version. It is ridiculously powerful. Absolutely. Even if you're a PC person, this is a really good option for you. Crazy powerful. You'll never have problems with it. On any computer, you're going to need to plug a lot of stuff in, depending on if you're using a mixer or a mic or a camera or a this or a that. Make sure, depending on the computer that you have enough inputs. This little guy here is called the CalDigit TS3. I have links to all of these things if you're interested in them on my website. This is the CalDigit. There are lots of different versions out there. It has a gazillion and a half ports on it, so you can plug in all your USB toys, anything that you need. Just be aware of what are the inputs on your computer and what might you need that isn't included there. All right, I forgot the most important thing. And it's not even on here. The most important thing, your streaming computer, whatever you're streaming to, Zoom or Facebook or YouTube, I'm going to say you must, which I probably shouldn't say because you don't have to do anything I say, but you must be plugged in to Ethernet. Wi-Fi was not built for sending video and audio, that it was built for email. Even a 3G phone connection will be more reliable than Wi-Fi. So if you need to spend money on anything, go out to Best Buy, buy yourself a nice long Cat 5, Cat 6 cable. That's the beautiful blue ones, or sometimes they're gray or black, and plug your device into Ethernet. Wi-Fi will work until it doesn't. And you only learn that after using it. So that's my one you must for the day. All right, let's talk about audio. So most of you, I imagine, in your sanctuaries, in your synagogues, maybe even in your libraries, have a sound system because you've been pumping sound into your sanctuary or your social hall forever. So more often than not, what you're going to be looking for is maybe audio solutions for smaller settings, or how do I get the sound from my sanctuary into Zoom? That's where a mixer or an audio interface comes in. So this guy over here, oh, my finger disappeared. This guy over here is called the Flow 8. It's by Behringer. That's what I'm using right now. I'm also using the one below it, which is called a Focusrite, a Scarlett Focusrite, or maybe it's called the Focusrite Scarlett. These both cost about $200. Basically what they do is you take a cable out from your mixer, your big fancy mixer, you plug it into the tuchus of one of these guys, and then you take USB out of these guys into your computer. And then in Zoom, you just choose that interface as your audio source. Just doing that will take everything that's coming through your mixer, everything that's projected into the sanctuary, and bring it into Zoom. We can talk another time or later or offline about how do you manage echo and feedback and all that other stuff. That's a whole science unto itself, but I have an easy solution for you. Many of your mixers may already have a USB out if it's a digital mixer. If it does, great. Don't buy anything and just grab a USB cable. If you're doing smaller settings, or if you're looking for microphones, I would encourage you to take a look at the top one, the Rode Go. It's really hard to point when your video is mirrored. The Rode Go 2, which is this guy right here. This came out a few months ago. These are wireless microphones, and you see there are three things there. So the first one, the one in the front, that is the receiver. So that plugs into your computer, just either via USB or via one of those little tiny phone jack plugs. The other two are transmitters. You actually get two transmitters and microphones with one receiver. So you could clip one onto the rabbi under her tallis, clip the other one onto the cantor under her tallis. Both audios will be directly sent into your receiver and right into Zoom or into your mixer, however you have it set up. So if you need people to be hands-free, these are a really nice solution, and I think it's like $300. They're really not that expensive. You can plug in a lavalier mic to it. So if your rabbi or cantor or president or whoever, educator prefers to have a lavalier mic, one of those that clip on here, you can plug it right into these. And Rode sells them, but you don't need to buy the Rode one. The big mic over here, the monster mic, is I have it back there also. That's called the Samson G-Track Pro. What I love about that is that I'm a musician. I'm the rock and roll rabbi on the side. And this little mic, it's a USB mic. But in addition to a mic, on the tushy of it, there's a 1/4 inch plug, which is the size of a plug that you use for a guitar. And there's a mixer built right into the microphone. So I could plug my guitar into the microphone and just plug that in USB. And I've got a nice mix of audio for guitar and vocal. So if you're leading a service, maybe you're on your own, you're a Colbo, you're doing it yourself, and you just want to be able to get a nice audio and a nice instrument sound, and you don't need to move around too much, the Samson G-Track Pro may be a nice option for you. All right, let me tell you the trick about feedback with Zoom. Here's the rule. Ready? When the room is speaking, Zoom is muted. When Zoom is speaking, the room is muted. That's all you need to remember. There are fancy ways to deal with feedback, that feedback loop that you sometimes get. There's mix minus, there's positioning of speakers, there's sound sound treatments. But really all you need to remember is have someone with a finger sit by mute, sit by Zoom. And if you, as the rabbi, the cantor, the president, are speaking or singing or davening in the room, and you want your people in Zoom to hear that, mute everyone in Zoom. If someone from Zoom is having an aliyah or doing a reading or something else, in Zoom, mute your input into Zoom. You don't have to turn off your speakers for the congregation, just mute yourself in Zoom. That will solve that problem. Okay. I'm really, really running late. Let's talk about cameras real quick. Ooh, I love cameras. Ready? I'm going to show you a whole bunch of cameras. I'm going to really quickly tell you what each of these does because they all do different things. You all probably have seen everyone's favorite webcam, the Logitech C920. It's fine. It gets the job done. It's nothing special. This little guy is my buddy. This is called the Obs Bot. I have one up here. You were looking at it before when I did live video in Keynote. This is so cute. This is a pan tilt zoom camera. It's really, really tiny. I wonder if I could show it to you. I probably could. It's really, really tiny. Let's see if I can do this. Is that my, no, that's it. It's up there. See it up there? Hello, right there. That's my Obs Bot. It's really, really tiny, but it will track your face. So you stick one of these on the top of a computer or on a tripod, and you put it in front of your bimah. The rabbi can move around all she wants, and this little guy will follow her. It's really pretty cool. You can actually control it by using hand gestures. If you want to zoom in and out, they absolutely made the wrong choice, but you make a loser sign and the camera will zoom in and out. I'm not sure why they chose the loser sign, but that's what it is. It's really fun. All right, wait, I want to peek at the chat real quick. Optimize with your, include the, right, we did that. I just made your week, Michael, love you. The other issues when we're not on site and at home, we need to have someone running the cameras. Getting people trained is a huge issue. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. The Obs Bot is spelled OBSBOT. If you go to my website, I have links to all of these, TorahTechGuy.com. I'm not selling anything, by the way. I'm just telling you an easy way to find it. This is a mirrorless camera or a DSLR. This is what I'm using right now. This happens to be the Sony A6400. You can get cheaper ones. If you're looking for the best high quality picture and you don't need to be too far away, using a DSLR or a mirrorless camera may be a really good solution for you. I will make sure you get the recording of this event, Sarah, I promise. Promise. We're going to talk about why this is too much for a rabbi. I promise. All right, look at this guy. Have you seen this one? Oh, wait, come back. No, come back. Wait, where'd it go? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. See what happens? You see my owl over here? How many of you know the Owlcam? Have you heard about the Owlcam? Yeah, this is a really interesting camera. So I have one here. I've used it a couple of times. Let me get into view here. This is called the Owlcam. And what this is it looks like a little owl. You stick it in the middle of the table. The black thing up on top there is a 360-degree camera, which takes a picture of everyone sitting around the table. And then the eyes of the owl are microphones. There are 4 microphones in this guy. And what it does is it plugs into your computer via USB, and it generates an image in Zoom as your camera. The very top is a little strip, like a cartoon strip with the 360-degree image stretched out. And then below it is the zoomed in image. So if I'm making all the noise, the owl camera is going to crop me out from that long image at the top and put me center stage. It can do 2 ups and 3 ups. So if you have 2 people talking, it'll put them side by side. It's a really nice solution for board meetings. If you're teaching a class in the round, it's a nice solution. Couple of things to be aware of. Number 1, the camera quality and audio quality are not fantastic. Full stop. They're absolutely passable, but they're not fantastic. The audio quality is even worse when you have people who aren't used to projecting their voice And on top of that, they're wearing a mask. What I found is that everybody at home can hear the rabbi when he speaks through the Owl camera, but they can't always hear the other participants because they're wearing a mask and they are not projecting their voice. So it's something to be aware of. If you are ever interested in the Owl, don't buy one. Let me know. I can get you $200 off. All right. This is the Neat bar. This is something the reform movement has really been pushing. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of the Neat bar. I think it's too expensive. I don't think we need it. But if you're doing a frontal sort of service or presentation or class, the Neat bar is, well, pretty neat because it will also follow the speaker around. You put it in front, it will connect immediately to Zoom and it will follow them around. This next one is called the Facebook portal. I have one of these right over here. If you see someone in this meeting called Techie, the tech guy, he is on my Facebook portal. He's my helper. He comes to every meeting that I do. Facebook portals are great, really nice little devices. They're cheap. They're like $100, $130. And here's the great thing about a Facebook portal. Every time you join a Zoom meeting from a Facebook portal, no matter whether you're the host or not, whenever you join a Zoom meeting from a Facebook portal, it immediately bumps the quality of your meeting up to HD, to 720p, because Zoom sees it as a Zoom Rooms device. So you want to get HD, you want to get 720p quality in your Zooms, but you don't want to pay for a business account. Spend $100 on a Facebook portal and you're halfway there. I use my portal all the time. I never turn the camera on. I never turn the microphone on. I just have it join my meetings. And finally, this is a Ptz camera. This is what a lot of churches and synagogues have, a pan tilt zoom camera. These usually hang up maybe in the back of the sanctuary. And the idea is you can remotely control with an iPad or a joystick or your computer. You can move them around. You can zoom in and out, things like that. They usually have 20 or 30 times zoom, so you can put them pretty far away. I'm not a huge fan of the picture quality, but they get the job done. What I think makes these really powerful is that because they can be run over different connections, like what's called an SDI or SDI over Ethernet, you can put them really far away. When you're dealing with other cameras, like especially USB cameras, they have to be kind of right in front of you, right next to the computer. With these, you can put them at a pretty fair distance away. One of the things I have found about Ptz cameras that I really don't like is they feel very jerky when they move, when they go zoom in and out or pan around. I haven't figured out yet how to make it more of a smooth transition, but that's for another day. All right, those are cameras. What's next? Peripherals. Okay, this goes to how do I help my rabbi do this? We're at 750. We're at 750. Okay, we just started using a Facebook portal. I'm looking at the chat. TV. Yeah, I use the Facebook portal TV all the time too. To have the people in the sanctuary be able to see the people at home and vice versa. It was great, but if you're on Spotlight view, it cannot be on Gallery view. Sure it can. Yeah, I'm happy to show you how. I'm happy to show you how. I'm pretty sure you can do that. Rabbi Adrian is about to prove me wrong. She's typing furiously right now. I can see her. No. All right, we'll get back to this. I want to share with you 3 peripherals. The first one is called an Atem Mini. If you have multiple cameras and you're just looking for an easy way to switch your cameras, an Atem Mini is a really nice solution. This is my, where'd it go? I disappeared. Where's my Atem Mini? I can't show you my Atem Mini. Oh, it's not turned on right now. Oh, well. I don't know why it's not turned on. Oh, the plug came out. That's why. When in doubt, plug things in. An Atem Mini is basically a video switcher. There we go. That's my Atem Mini kind of hiding down here, right there. And basically what it allows you to do is, I can't get a better picture of that. Can I pull it out a little bit? No, because then all my cameras will come out. It basically has 4 buttons. And when you press these buttons, you can switch cameras. It's a really easy push button, simple way to switch cameras if you have cameras to switch. The second thing, this, my friends, is important. This guy right here. This is called a Stream Deck. I have a couple of them. I've got another one over here. This is the baby one. I got the grandpa right here. This is the daddy. And then there's a baby one that has only 6 buttons. Here's what a Stream Deck is. This literally saves my life. A Stream Deck is a piece of plastic with a series of little buttons on it. And each button can be mapped to do something different. So for example, let me bring this back over here. So example, these are my Zoom buttons on the bottom here. So when I'm in any Zoom meeting, if I want to mute or unmute myself, I have a button right there. I don't have to find my mouse. I don't have to find the window. I just press a button and it mutes me. If I want to open up my participants panel, my Zoom chat, if I want to raise my hand, I just press a button and my hand is raised. If I want to share my screen, if I want to switch between grid view, gallery view, and speaker view, because I like seeing everyone's faces, I have that. And the all important, oh my God, help get me out of this Zoom call, the leave meeting or end call is right there. I use my Stream Deck for just about everything. I use it for Zoom calls. I use it to switch scenes. I use it to bring in overlays. I use it to mute. I use it for everything. And what I love about it is that it's tactile, right? The buttons are raised, so I can feel the buttons. I don't even have to look, and I can tell you exactly what I'm about to press. I imagine being on the bima with something that I could just rest my hand on and know even if you're only using 4 buttons, I know the first 4 buttons are Rabbi's camera, Cantor's camera, wide angle of the bima, and Torah cam. I've got my hand, I just rest my hand there and I can just press those buttons. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to look at a computer, none of that. Last tool I want to share with you, which, oh, where'd it go? Where'd my tool go? Oh, I pressed the wrong button again. This is the tool. This is the tool I want to share with you. No, I don't want to go through all of this. Hold on. Let me get out of here. This is the tool I want to share with you. And of course I pressed the wrong thing. That's fantastic. All right, here it is. So we talked about the Atem Mini. We talked about the Stream Deck. And here's the third one. This is called the Pageflip Firefly. This is a Pageflip focus. This is a Pageflip Firefly. It is a Bluetooth pedal that sits on the floor. And I have it connected to my computer. So if I want to advance my slides, I don't even need to use my hands. I just press it with my foot. Now for me, I'm playing guitar, I'm switching scenes, I'm doing everything myself. I don't have an extra set of hands. Having this on the floor, so I can just step on it and advance my slide, makes my job much, much easier. The Stream Deck is I want to say a couple $100. This Pageflip Firefly is maybe $100. I would say if you need to buy gear to help you manage what you're doing, let's say you're using visual tefillah while you're leading services, you don't need to click on anything. You don't get a Firefly and your cantor can just press it as she's singing along. All right, folks, we're almost there. I promise. But let's be honest, right? This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So that's why I want to introduce you to my buddy. This is Techi. He comes to all of my meetings. And I want to encourage you to have a Techi also. In fact, I would encourage you to have a few Techis. These do not need to be official production software engineers or anything like that. If you are thoughtful about what your needs are, going back to that original question, what's my goal? If you're thoughtful about your goal and what your needs are, you can have people support you and help you. I would suggest having 3 Zoom helpers. Now, this could be 3 different people, or it could be 1 person. So 1 person should be in charge of security. 1 person should be watching the waiting room, making sure the right people are coming in and the right people are not coming in. God forbid if you get a bad actor, either in chat or, God forbid, putting something up on their screen, you can, someone who knows how to kick them out right away. And generally speaking, someone to make sure that this is a safe space. People will not come back if they don't feel safe. The second thing is to have someone, again, it could be the same person, be your mute master. Not all of us have mastered the mute button yet. Although I wish many of us had. Most people wish that I had. if you have someone who can keep an eye on where noise is coming from, and you can see it, if you open your participant panel, you can see the little microphone bobbles up, you can see who's making noise and jump in and mute them. Having someone dedicated to do that is very, very helpful. And the third job for a Zoom master is someone who can handle screen sharing, polls, breakout rooms, all sort of a little more high level stuff within Zoom, stuff that we don't necessarily do every day. And again, you don't need to have 3 different people. It could all be 1 or 2 people, but training these people appropriately is really, really important. I ran a course this summer called Zoom Gabbai. As soon as I heard that title, I immediately purchased the URL zoomgabbai.com. I don't think it points to anything yet, but I love that title. And I'm happy if you have people who are in need of training on how to work with Zoom. I'm happy they can actually watch they're all up on my website, or I'm happy to do that for any of you. You are assuming we are Zooming. We're running camera video interface with switcher while on-site service happens. Use Boxcast live stream. We can bring Zoom into it, but it really makes it hard to manage. Yeah, you're right. Bringing Zoom into a live stream is not impossible. You can absolutely do it. You basically would want to use something called NDI, or if you are using a separate computer, you want to bring that computer in again to your switcher. I'm not assuming you're on Zoom, but I'm focusing on multicasting, and I think Zoom is where most people land. But all of these tools apply to live streaming. I did a live stream earlier today. I used my Stream Deck. I used my Firefly. I used Ecamm Live. I used PowerPoint, or Keynote rather. So all of these tools apply to live streaming or broadcasting or multicasting. And yes, BK Hipster said the Behringer Flow 8 is outstanding. I love it. It's $557 on Amazon apparently. What about techies for the work before we ever get to the Zoom meeting? Yeah. So that's the next thing. Oh, by the way, I should have said another important role within Zoom or Facebook or YouTube is moderating the chat. Moderating the chat. And when I say moderate, I don't mean just, ask people to only leave nice comments. I mean to engage with people in the chat. If someone asks a question, acknowledge that question. If someone says something beautiful, acknowledge that. If the rabbi or cantor is giving a sermon and they say something really memorable, type that into the chat. Ask people questions in the chat. You should have someone engaging with people using some of these engagement tools during your streams or during your Zooms. But if we really had our dream, we would call the doctor. We'd have someone who's dedicated, someone who knows their Torah, someone who knows their tech, to really not only do this work, but engage in the thoughtful process about what does it mean to engage with folks in digital space. A lot of the big churches do this. I'm a part of Elevation Church. I go on there. They have a monthly call for all their digital pastors. I go on that. They let me come because I want to learn from them. And they tell me consistently that 20% of their job is done Sunday mornings. 80% of their job is done during the rest of the week, because they're working with the other clergy to imagine what the service experience is going to look like. They're contacting folks who are on the stream. They're reaching out. They're following up on comments. They're posting sermons from last week. They're creating digital content. This is so much, the capacity to engage with people in digital space is so much bigger than just live streaming or going out to Zoom. That's a big piece of it, but it's not the only piece of it. And a lot of that work happens before the stream or the Zoom even starts. Finally, remember that a healthy community online isn't just a bunch of people watching on their phones. It's also a method of gathering people in physical spaces. This is what some of us have been calling digital first events. Hybrid is hard. Multi-access is hard. But what if, as a part of our multi-access experiences, if you knew that you had 20 people who were going to be participating online, what if instead of pushing them, one of the questions was, how do we encourage people to come back to the synagogue? What if instead of pushing people to come back, you encourage people to gather in other people's homes, in smaller groups where they feel more comfortable, more safe? Maybe this family and this family who have been gathering outside of synagogue, maybe they want to have a pray date together. One family invites the other family over, and they participate in the online davening experience together. That way, you're combining both the on-site and the online. The site just isn't your site, it's their site. And isn't that what we've always been trying to do? Bring Judaism into people's homes. Well, folks, here we are. We finally made it. Let's celebrate it. Let's make the most of this. So I'm done. I'm going to stop talking. I promise. I want to get to some questions if you have them. I know I'm over by 2 minutes. If you have questions, please, 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 please reach out to me. Honest to God, I'm here to help. I'm happy to work with your congregation, to work with you. I'm happy to do whatever I can. All the resources on my website are free. You download whatever you want. I've got, if you're doing overlays, I've got some of that stuff there, but I also have links to all of the tech that I've been using. Let me stop talking. I see a question in here, screen sharing the prayer book. So I don't recommend screen sharing the prayer book, again, because then you disappear. I don't recommend screen sharing. And you are so much more important than the prayer book. I really believe that. Your presence, your face, your neshama is so much more important than the words in the prayer book. Bye, BK Hipster. Thank you. Bye, Roz. So that's what I would say about screen sharing. If you can use some of the tools that I shared with you, either Keynote or the live video thing or PowerPoint as virtual background, whatever Zoom calls it, so that you can stay more front and center, that's fantastic. But I'm not a big fan of screen sharing. We make books available, Rabbi Adrian is writing, we make books available to people, and most of our clients have picked them up or have older versions. Yeah. The nice thing about having books is that then when you call a page, everyone is literally on the same page, right? And you're not having to manage calling pages and forwarding the slide that you're showing. What the synagogue here chose to do is to recreate the visual tefillah as lower thirds. So they took and it took forever. They just used Google Slides, and then they brought it in using Vmix. They just they had all the tefillah on the bottom there. I call 3 sets of pages to cover 3 different books. Yeah, I hear you. Are you available to help us facilitate our multi-access committee? Of course I am, Mara. I'd be happy to. Absolutely. If you go to TorahTechGuy.com/help or TorahTechGuy.com/contact, you can reach out to me there. You can set up a short schmooze. We can talk a little bit more about what you need and all that other good stuff. What other questions you have? You know what? Unmute. Talk to me. Tell me your successes. Tell me your struggles. Rabbi Adrian, prove me wrong about what we were arguing about before. What was that?
Okay, so when I put up that Facebook portal, I finally got it working last week, was really good because the new system that we put in place crashed in the middle of Friday night, but the Facebook portal was working. So I was like, hey, 1 out of 2, this is good. But when we were doing Spotlight, which we do on Friday nights, because we live stream to Facebook and some of our folks don't want their mugs on Facebook. And so we try to honor that. The Facebook portal TV would not allow me. It had it grayed out to go to gallery view. So it would only stay on speaker view. Or on the view with the little boxes at the top. Which was too bad because what I wanted that for was so that the people in the sanctuary could see all the people at home and vice versa.
Right.
So it works for Saturday morning when we're not doing spotlighting. But
so let me ask you a question.
Figure out a way on Friday.
Let me ask you a question. Is that the only device? Like, did you initiate the meeting from that device, from the Facebook portal TV?
No, I initiated it from a different device.
Huh. I know the problem you're talking about. And I know that I fixed it. I just, for the life of me, can't figure out how I fixed it.
Well, that's pretty darn cool. So let's
so you
talk
know what?
And figure it out.
Yeah, I'll set we'll find a time. I'll set mine up and we'll see if we can figure that out. Yeah.
Cool.
I actually
be Facebook portal versus portal TV. Because we have it as a portal TV.
No, I have that also. That's what I'm talking about. Awesome. By the way, if those of you who are curious, this is the Facebook portal TV. It's a really nice little device. It's this guy here. And it just, oh, sorry, I got to focus. There we go. And it just kind of sits, almost looks like an oversized webcam. It sits on top of your TV. It plugs in via HDMI to your TV, and it's all inclusive. So you don't need a computer. You get the, where's my little doohickey? Yeah, it comes with a little remote, and you can start the meeting from here. You can change views from here. It's a nice little device. I use it the same way you did, so that people can sort of see who's in the Zoom. But I will, we got to figure that out. We'll work on that together. Hi, Renee.
So we have, our biggest thing right now is we're really about half the people come to services and half the people are home. We're doing live stream. Sometimes we're doing Zoom sometimes. But we have nothing that the people that are actually in the service are seeing the people at home. And what do you recommend for showing people everybody else? Do you have screens that you project on? Are you, what
Renee,
gets us to see them?
I don't recommend it, actually.
What
I don't recommend that you show everyone in Zoom. So when I've talked to synagogues about bringing the Zoomagogue into the Roomagogue, what I do not suggest putting up gallery view, as it were, on a big screen in the sanctuary for a couple of reasons. Primarily because when we walk into Shul, we've made an effort to get dressed and go to a sacred space. When we attend Shul from home in front of our computer or our webcam, we don't always make that same effort. And there could be things that are seen and shown in your sanctuary that you'd really rather not see. It's unintentional most of the time, but that to me is too dangerous. To put up just the gallery view of everyone is too dangerous. What I do recommend is creating a way for people at home to have an aliyah or to share a reading and to bring them into the synagogue. And the way that I've done that is, well, the way that, I'll tell you the way the synagogue here does it, and then I'll tell you the way that I would recommend doing it. Synagogue here actually bought two, I think they're 80-inch screens, pretty big TVs, and mounted them in the sanctuary. Now, when they're not being used, when no one is zooming in, when no one is participating, they're black. And honestly, they're really not noticeable. I was surprised because they just kind of blend. Obviously, it depends on the decor of your show, but they kind of blend in. And when someone does zoom in, then their faces go up there. Here's why I wouldn't do that. Of course, it depends on the size of your sanctuary, but when someone goes up to have an aliyah, their face is about this big. When someone zooms in to have an aliyah and you put them up on an 80-inch screen, their face is ridiculous. It's just too big of a face. And so what I would recommend is just go to Costco, buy yourself a nice 40, 50-inch TV, less than $1,000, put it on a rolling cart. So get one of those stands that has wheels on it. Maybe get a Facebook portal TV, just pop it on top and join the meeting from there. And then you can have someone just spotlight whoever is having the aliyah. You again, when the room is speaking, Zoom is muted. When Zoom is speaking, the room is muted, and you just use that. So I don't think you need to invest in huge screens in our sanctuaries. I think you can make it much more simple than that. And the last thing I'll say, Renee, I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. The last thing I'll say is, I do think that we need to start having a discussion about what it means to have technology in our sacred spaces. You know, Rabbi David Ingber reminded me that chairs are technology. Prayer books are technology. This is new technology, and so it feels uncomfortable, I think, but there's nothing wrong about having technology in our sacred spaces. It will take some conversation. It will take some getting used to, though. Renee, I would love to connect with you if you want, and we can talk some more.
There are people who would love to participate from home, but we don't have a good way, if we're doing it with the cameras in the synagogue, to bring them in other than a separate Zoom camera that we show them on.
So you don't
And-
need a separate Zoom camera.
They're
You
not
just
cameras, that we have it on a computer.
Right.
We
All
have a
you-
switcher so we can bring them in on the switcher, but nobody sees them.
So
how do I get them?
if you have a switcher, all you need is a television, a monitor that has an in that corresponds to the out on your switcher, which is probably HDMI. Let me take some more questions, Renee. Connect with me. I'll help you out with this. This is an easy
Okay.
one. We can figure this one out.
Okay.
Someone else, come on down.
David,
You're the next- Hey, Ed.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a new portal model that is portable.
Yeah, and it's
Or
ugly
whatever.
as sin. It's ugly as sin. And it's hysterical to me that they call this thing portable. Have you seen it?
I've just seen pictures of it.
It's huge.
Okay.
It's like this big, bulky thing. I don't understand it at all. I'll be honest. They announced the craziest stuff at Facebook. That and the recent Amazon thing where they have this robot that walks around and does absolutely nothing in your house. Yes, this is the Facebook. I think they're calling it the Facebook Portal Go, maybe. It feels really big and bulky and silly to me. I've got the little 8-inch right here, which honestly, like I love. I mean this here. Let me show you this guy. Here's my. Sorry, it's plugged in, so it's not really working well. But this is my 8-inch portal, and it's fantastic. It gets the job done. Again, I use it primarily just as a sort of an ancillary device, but yeah, there are different versions of this. There's the 10-inch, there's the 15-inch. There are lots of different versions out there. What else? Mr. J, I saw you nodding away while we were going. What you seem like the kind of guy who knows what he's doing.
We've been producing since COVID started pretty much, and my most recent success that I was actually probably the most proud of was a Torah cam.
Yeah, Torah cams are great.
Overhead,
yes. Yeah. Here's what I love about Torah cam is that synagogue goers, participants who have never seen a Torah up close, all of a sudden are not only seeing it up close, but they can watch the cantor or the rabbi or the participant read. I love the idea of a Torah cam. Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. Love that. Yeah. How do Torah cams work? Charlie's asking. Torah cams work by Penina. Torah cams work by Chaz and Cindy. Harmony singing on Zoom. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Torah cams work. It's very simple. Torah cams are a second camera. You can use. This is what I'm using here. This is a Sony ZV-1. This is the cheapest mirrorless camera, kind of from the Sony line. It doesn't have any like lenses that come off. I don't know how to do any of that stuff. I have a bunch of garbage on here now, but it's a simple camera. You put it on an arm over the Torah reading table. So I've got this little arm here. This is just a stretch out arm. It's just attached to my desk, and I can move it around. So when I'm not using it, I can hide it over here. When I'm reading Torah, I can bring it out. I used to have, I'm not going to find it right now, but I have an old webcam, an old Logitech webcam that I just don't use anymore. And I actually have that on an arm, and I can use that as an overhead cam also. So easy peasy. New apps or devices that allow for harmony singing on Zoom? No. That is a problem with physics. Latency is, there are apps that suggest that they do a better job of that. And they will sometimes work if you're within 200 meters of the person that you're singing, the other person on Zoom. But yeah, that's a physics problem, unfortunately, that when whoever cracks that code, who fixes the latency issue, boy, I want to know that person. Yeah, exactly. That's going to be pretty amazing. Oh, let me unspotlight myself. Sorry, I've been spotlighted this whole time. By the way, is it spotlit or spotlighted? I never know.
They're both correct according to the dictionary.
Are they really? Are you serious?
Last time I looked.
You looked? That's the best part of that story, is that you actually looked up spotlit or spotlighted. I love it. What else,
I used
friends?
the word.
You know what? Actually, let me stop for a second. Gretchen, I went so over. I am so sorry. Let me give it back to you for a minute, and then I'm happy to stay on with anyone who wants to. Gretchen, I'm so sorry.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Well, Renee asked about bringing people in the Zoom into the room. And I certainly understand the challenges in sacred space. What about meeting space, where you want to make sure that everyone has an equal voice in that room?
So for a meeting space, I would suggest, again, the audio and video quality isn't the best, but I would suggest the Owl Camera. The Owl Camera is $1,000. You can get it for $750. They have a good something program. I can hook you up with them for that. It's a refurbished model, but I haven't had any problems with it. And again, what's nice about it is that, as you said, it kind of makes everyone equal, because you put it in the middle, and it will just, whoever's making the most noise, that's where the camera zooms in on.
And then you would have a screen in the room so that the roomers could see the Zoomers.
Exactly. So what I do is, what I've done in the past is, if we're at a table, a square table or a round table, I take my TV that's on my cart and I roll it into where one of the seats would be. So it's literally in someone's place. So it's a participant, as it were. I have the Owl Camera in the middle, connected to a computer that is just plugged into that TV. And so then whoever's speaking on the Owl Camera, it will automatically switch and come up for everyone on Zoom. And whoever's speaking in Zoom will automatically become the active speaker and will fill up that screen in the room.
I actually heard recently a recommendation that when you have meetings or classes with roomers and Zoomers, that those people in the room also each have their own device, so that they can participate in.
No.
Well, the argument was they can participate in the breakout rooms and in the polling and in all and the Mentiments and all the wonderful applications that you're using to engage the Zoomers.
No.
So they can use their phone to do the Mentimeters, but do not have them join the Zoom. As soon as you have more than one device in a Zoom meeting with audio, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. You never want to have, you can have more than one device in a Zoom meeting in the same room, but you have to either disable audio or turn all the audio off on one of the devices. Otherwise, you'll get insane feedback and a terrible feedback loop.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But you're right, Gretchen. Sorry, I shouldn't have. I jumped as soon as you said multiple devices in a Zoom meeting, but you're absolutely right that having people use their phones for a Mentimeter or a Padlet or a what have you can be really helpful. We just had a board meeting here, and we were going to do it multi-access, but we wanted to use Padlet, and we actually decided that it would be a better meeting if we told everyone to stay home. If we intentionally said this is a digital only meeting, because that way we can ensure that everyone really is treated equally and seen equally and has the same access to whatever we're sharing or participating in. So that was a conscious choice that we made for a meeting. Yeah.
Have you addressed all the questions that will be addressed?
Absolutely not. But let me just look real quick. How do you break out small groups when you have some in the room and some remote? Yeah. For that, what I would do is I would do breakout rooms or small groups for the people in the physical space, and then breakout rooms or small groups for the people digitally rather. I would not mix the two. That because then again, you would need multiple devices. I think that would be challenging. Roz says, if you tell people that their image will be broadcast, they can choose to dress up and be on screen. They could choose that.
They won't.
But they might not always. And again, it's to a certain extent it's about quality control. It's in the same way I think that any of us would get frustrated if someone showed up to shul. Not any of us. Many of us, certainly when I was growing up, if someone showed up in ripped jeans, torn jeans and a t-shirt to shul, if my feathers didn't get ruffled, a whole bunch of my congregants' feathers would have gotten ruffled. The same, I think, is probably true for people who are participating online, but it's just a different experience for those of us who are at home, and we don't always think about, showing up in the same way.
And beyond that, just to add my 2 cents,
Please.
what do you do about the people that fall asleep? There are people at home that are in their comfy chair, and during services, they fall asleep. You don't want them displaying to everybody. It's a privacy issue.
Hey, it happens in the synagogue too. But anyway.
In the synagogue, you're already in public. At home, in your comfy chair, with the mouth open.
And in the synagogue, the people who fall asleep, I was one of them, are usually in the back. Not everyone is staring at them, right? In Zoom, I mean, this is one of the discussions about with the whole Zoom fatigue, which, by the way, I don't believe in, but that's a whole other session, is that we are all being looked at in Zoom constantly. And that's difficult for some people, and it's dangerous for us who are thinking about the quality of what we're putting out there, especially if we're streaming to Facebook or YouTube. When you're watching a stream on TV and they cut to someone in the audience. I remember, if you ever watched Whose Line Is It Anyway? I love that show. There's a bloopers reel from Whose Line Is It Anyway when they're in the middle of a game and they stop the game and the producer comes out and says, someone behind Drew is falling asleep and he's in the shot. Right? They don't want to put out a feed that shows someone falling asleep or not wearing something appropriate. We shouldn't want to do that either. And so I do not recommend showing everyone's screens. If they know they're having an aliyah, they'll be ready, I think. Hi, Gail. Hi, Michael. Gretchen, do you want to kind of officially put a pin in this, and then people can not feel like they're abandoning me and just leaving me all alone here in Zoom land?
So Toda Rabah, thank you so much, Rabbi David. This has been extraordinary. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us this evening. David, thank you for teaching, sharing, listening, and guiding us to be more inclusive, more engaging, and more effective. I encourage you, the rest of you, to explore Rabbi David's website, TorahTechGuy.com, where you'll find numerous excellent resources. We hope that you've benefited from our time together and will take away and employ at least one new idea in your multi-access events. We wish you good health and Laila Tov. Good night.